Breaking news, y'all. Grab your popcorn, clutch your pearls. And maybe even double up on that Wi-Fi bill, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of tea that makes Lipton jealous. The internet has been buzzing, TikTok is foaming. At the mouth, and the love and hip-hop streets are hotter than a Dollar Tree wig in July. Why? Because Spice, yes, the undisputed queen of dancehall. The woman who can shut down a room with just one blue wig and a death stare, has allegedly dropped the real reason Zell decided to pack his little Louis Vuitton duffel and bounce on Saucy Santana. Now I know what you're thinking. Zell leaving Santana. That's not just a breakup. That's a full-blown seismic shift in the messy reality TV universe. But hold up. The story doesn't stop at boy leaves boy. Oh no, honey. According to sources, and by sources I mean the streets, the blogs, and that one auntie who always knows everybody's business, there is a dark, messy, possibly career-ending secret Spice herself might have just confirmed. So the question is, was Zell's exit just about personal drama? Or is this the scandal that could finally dethrone the material girl once and for all? Stick around because this rabbit hole goes way deeper than you think. So let us start peeling back the layers of this scandal, because what Spice has exposed is not just petty drama, but the kind of bombshell that makes even the most loyal fans sit back and wonder if they have been rooting for the wrong star all along. Because the breakup between Zell and Saucy Santana is not being whispered about in hushed tones for no reason. It is being screamed across timelines, reposted on shady blogs, and dissected by anonymous insiders who claim they know exactly why Zell decided to leave the glittering but toxic orbit of the so-called material girl. And if the rumors are true, then Santana's house of cards might be collapsing faster than his TikTok dances can go viral. And here's where it gets spicy, because Spice herself apparently could not keep her mouth shut. Once she caught wind of what went down behind closed doors, she jumped right into the mess like the fearless blue-wigged gladiator she has always been, and she delivered a revelation so cutting it had fans gasping for air. So what exactly happened? What was the trigger that sent Zell storming off and left Santana scrambling to maintain his image? The story begins with money and power and the ugly truth about what happens when social media clout is mistaken for actual respect in the industry. Because according to insiders, Zell was getting tired of playing sidekick in a show that was supposed to be about partnership. Every time the cameras rolled, Santana made it about himself. Every outfit had to be bigger, every entrance had to be louder, every dinner turned into a stage for his antics. And Zell, who had been putting in work, styling, organizing, even networking behind the scenes, began to feel more like unpaid staff than an equal partner. And when you mix that with Santana's reputation for being high maintenance and quick-tempered, you get a recipe for disaster. But the cracks did not stop there, because Spice dropped the most shocking detail of all when she hinted that Zell had actually discovered receipts proving Santana was secretly funneling money from brand deals into what one source dramatically described as a lifestyle fund. In other words, instead of paying collaborators or splitting checks, Santana was allegedly splurging on fur coats, diamond-encrusted glasses, last-minute private jet bookings, and a mountain of designer bags, leaving Zell to pick up the slack when it came to actual bills. And while some fans immediately rolled their eyes and said Spice was just being messy, others remembered that this was not the first time rumors of financial recklessness had followed Santana. Remember that viral clip where his credit card declined at a high-end boutique and he laughed it off? Fans thought it was a joke, but now people are wondering if that was an early sign of a pattern. And Zell apparently had enough when he realized his name could be tied to the fallout. Because let's be real, the last thing a rising stylist wants is to be linked with fraud, unpaid invoices, and messy brand drama. So when Spice came forward and said in her signature, no-nonsense tone, that Zell did not leave Santana for personal reasons, but because he was tired of being dragged into scandal after scandal, the internet practically exploded. But that is just the surface level. because anonymous DMS began surfacing on gossip pages, claiming Zell had found text messages where Santana allegedly admitted he was only keeping Zell around for clout. Having a stylist/reality TV figure by his side made him look more legitimate in industry circles. And if that is true, then it paints a much darker picture. Because instead of a partnership built on love or even business respect, it looks more like manipulation. Zell as the prop, Santana as the star. And when Spice connected the dots and said out loud what everyone else was too scared to say it was, like gasoline on a fire, suddenly fans started rewatching old episodes, dissecting interviews, pointing out moments where Santana dismissed Zell or cut him off. And it all began to make sense. And while Santana's supporters quickly clapped, back insisting this was nothing more than Spice trying to insert herself into drama that had nothing to do with her. The damage had already been done because once the narrative of financial mess, emotional manipulation, and public disrespect hit the internet, there was no turning back. Zell's quiet exit transformed overnight into a headline-grabbing scandal that threatens to unravel the polished, glittery image Santana has worked so hard to maintain. And if Spice is telling the truth, then this is not just another petty breakup. This is the kind of scandal that could redefine careers and shake the entire love and hip-hop universe to its core. What made this situation spiral even more out of control was the way the public reacted once Spice's words started circulating, because suddenly this was no longer just gossip whispered on shady Instagram blogs, but a full-scale debate about whether Santana had been living a lie and whether Zell had been nothing more than collateral damage in a carefully curated performance of wealth and power. And what struck fans the most was how quickly anonymous sources began coming forward with their own so-called receipts, painting an even uglier picture than anyone expected. One supposed industry insider claimed that during a brand partnership negotiation, Santana demanded an outrageous wardrobe budget only to turn around and pocket half the funds, while still insisting Zell sourced the clothes on a smaller allowance. Another alleged that Santana used Zell's credit to book hotels and then conveniently forgot to pay him back, creating a paper trail of IOUs that could easily turn into lawsuits if Zell decided to go public. And while none of these claims have been officially confirmed, the sheer number of them flooding timelines gave the impression that people had been sitting on these stories waiting for the right moment to strike. Spice simply lit the match and the fire spread uncontrollably. Fans started combing through videos pointing out moments where Zell's body language looked frustrated or defeated while Santana soaked up the spotlight. Others shared supposed leaked text exchanges where Zell allegedly vented to friends that he felt trapped in Santana's shadow and was tired of doing the heavy lifting, while the material girl strutted around like he was untouchable. And it was not long before the words manipulation and exploitation started being thrown around, terms that hit hard in a reality television universe already built on power struggles and public humiliation. The scandal snowballed further when a voice note surfaced on a gossip page claiming to be Santana himself, bragging about how easy it was to keep people around as long as you bought them flashy gifts and posted them on social media. Whether or not the voice was truly his did not even matter anymore, because the narrative was already in motion, and public opinion is rarely about hard proof. It is about who tells the most compelling story. And right now, Spice and the people repeating her claims were telling the story everyone wanted to hear. The fall of a star who had flown too close to the sun on wings made of rented diamonds and unfulfilled promises. What made it all even messier was Santana's response, or rather, his refusal to directly address any of the allegations. Instead, he posted cryptic tweets about jealous haters and energy vampires. He doubled down on his unbothered image with staged photo shoots and fur and captions that screamed denial. But what fans noticed most was the absence of Zell in every single post. The silence from Zell's side spoke louder than any official statement. Because in the world of reality television, no response often means there is more truth than fiction in the rumors. And that silence gave Spice's version of events even more credibility. Industry people began whispering that Santana's team was in panic mode, trying to prevent major sponsors from pulling out. There were even claims that a sneaker brand had quietly paused negotiations until the dust settled, and that is the kind of consequence that cuts deeper than shade on Instagram Live. Money talks louder than clout, and if Santana's money pipeline starts drying up because of the perception of dishonesty or misuse, then the empire he built on flamboyance could topple faster than anyone predicted. Zell, meanwhile, was spotted alone at a high-end restaurant in Los Angeles, and the paparazzi photos showed him smiling, which only fueled speculation that he felt relieved to be free from Santana's shadow. People on social media began labeling him the silent winner in this saga, while Santana became the subject of countless memes, comparing him to reality stars who crumbled under their own arrogance. The suspense kept growing because everyone wanted to know whether Zell would eventually break his silence and spill everything, or whether Spice would continue dropping pieces of the puzzle until Santana had no choice but to confront the storm directly. For now, the feud had become a living, breathing soap opera playing out across platforms. And the more Santana tried to act unaffected, the more people believed that behind closed doors he was scrambling, panicking, and watching his carefully crafted image slip further out of control. As the scandal continued to spiral, it became clear that what started as a whisper of drama had transformed into something resembling a full-blown investigation in the court of public opinion, where every fan with a Twitter account was suddenly a detective piecing together the timeline of Zell's departure and Santana's alleged downfall. And while Santana tried to drown out the noise with flashy posts and hollow affirmations about staying booked and unbothered, the reality behind the scenes appeared much different, because industry whispers suggested his team was growing increasingly frustrated by his refusal to directly address the allegations. Some even claiming that his publicist was on the verge of resigning after weeks of damage control that was beginning to feel like a lost cause. The problem with scandals like this is not just the immediate gossip, but the way they attach themselves, like glue to a celebrity's image. And no matter how many staged photo shoots or denial tweets appear, the audience never forgets the first explosive headline. And Spice made sure that headline had teeth when she repeated in another live session that Zell was not just a stylist who walked away from a diva, but a man who escaped a toxic cycle of financial exploitation and emotional manipulation. Her words cut deeper each time because she positioned herself as a truth teller, not afraid to risk her own reputation by saying what others only dared to imply. And that stance endeared her to an audience who has always loved her for being raw and unapologetic. Meanwhile, Zell's silence became almost mythic because fans filled the gaps with their own stories, imagining him writing a tell-all book or preparing a documentary that would finally expose Santana with receipts. The anticipation itself became part of the entertainment. Blogs started posting countdown memes, predicting the exact date Zell would break his silence, while others speculated he was negotiating an exclusive interview deal with a major platform like The Shade Room, or a sit-down with Wendy Williams. The uncertainty kept the spotlight locked on the feud, and every day that Zell did not speak only made the eventual reveal feel more valuable. Santana, on the other hand, looked increasingly cornered because no matter how much he tried to flex his wealth online, every move was scrutinized through the lens of Spice's allegations. If he bought a new chain, fans said he used brand money. If he posed in a rented jet, they called it smoke and mirrors. If he went live, his comments were flooded with questions about Zell. The narrative was slipping further out of his control, and the more he laughed it off, the more people believed he was hiding panic behind performance. At the same time, rumors began to circulate that Love and Hip Hop producers were salivating at the thought of capitalizing on the chaos. Anonymous crew members claimed new storylines were being drafted to place Santana and Spice in direct confrontation on screen, and that executives were pressuring Zell to sign back on to film a special episode that would finally put all three in the same room. If that scenario ever played out, it promised ratings gold, because the fans were already calling it the showdown of the decade. But beyond television entertainment, the scandal began bleeding into real-life consequences, with talk of possible legal trouble if any of the financial allegations were proven true. One blog went so far as to claim leaked emails showed disputes over unpaid invoices linked to Santana's team. And while nothing has been officially confirmed, even the suggestion of legal entanglements added fuel to the fire. And when celebrities from outside the love and hip-hop universe began weighing in, the situation reached a fever pitch. Rappers, influencers, and YouTubers all added their 2 cents, either defending Santana's hustle or applauding Zell for walking away. The debate grew so large that mainstream outlets picked it up, framing it as a cautionary tale about fame built on image rather than substance. And through it all, Spice remained the lightning rod, feeding the storm with cryptic comments and sly confirmations. Her role in the saga turned her from a background cast member into the unofficial narrator of Santana's alleged unraveling. And her fans cheered every time she delivered another soundbite. The suspense reached unbearable levels when Zell was spotted walking into a studio in Atlanta, accompanied by a camera crew, which immediately sparked theories that he was finally ready to tell his side in a way that would cement his image as the survivor rather than the sidekick. Santana, meanwhile, doubled down, posting a long caption insisting he was thriving and that fake friends could never dim his shine. But the comments under the post told a different story, because even his own supporters seemed to want answers instead of slogans. And when the reunion taping finally arrived, the tension was so thick that insiders claimed producers had to increase security. The seating arrangement itself became a subject of debate, with Zell refusing to sit anywhere near Santana and Spice, strategically placed opposite him. The exchanges that leaked from the taping painted a picture of a man unable to escape the weight of accusations, no matter how loudly he laughed or how many insults he threw. And while the cameras captured every glare and every cutting remark, the real story was already written in the minds of fans who had spent weeks watching the saga unfold online. In their eyes, the verdict was delivered long before the reunion stage lights ever came on. Santana had been exposed, and Zell had walked away with his dignity intact, while Spice emerged as the unexpected whistleblower who set it all in motion. The scandal became legend because it showed that in the messy world of reality, fame, the truth always has a way of slipping through the cracks, no matter how much glitter you throw on top. And now the only question left is whether Santana can rebuild from the rubble, or whether this is the beginning of the end for the material girl persona that once seemed untouchable. So now that all the tea has been spilled and the receipts have been scattered across the internet like confetti, the real question is, where do we go from here? Because what we have just unraveled is not just a messy breakup or a simple case of celebrity drama, but a chain reaction that could shift the entire balance of reality television fame, and you, the audience, are the ultimate jury in this trial of clout versus credibility. So what do you believe? Did Zell walk away because he finally had enough of playing the loyal shadow to a star obsessed with glitter and filters? Or did Spice truly uncover the ugly truth that Santana has been hiding behind fur coats and rented jets all along? The only way this story lives on is through you. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think Santana can recover, or if this is the beginning of his downfall. Hit that like button if you love the chaos, and make sure you subscribe, because the next bombshell could drop at any moment, and you already know we will be right here to break it all down first.